To be fair, and this is something which we talk about a bit on the show, some parts of the world it is pretty tough to be a Christian. Some parts of the world it is even difficult or dangerous to be a Christian and certainly to communicate faith. And it's those parts of the world that that FEBC specialises in broadcasting a message of hope to some pretty tough places. Joining me on the program now is Executive Director of FEBC New Zealand, Matt Perry. Matt, kia ora. Thanks for joining us today.
Kia ora, good to see you, thank you, and hear you.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on the program today. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, some of the places you broadcast are tough places to be a Christian. There is persecution happening in many different parts of the world. However, as we're just on the cusp of the Advent season, some good news in this regard. It turns out that Christmas is good news for all mankind and also for FEBC and the places you broadcast to.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a fantastic season. It's one of those interesting things. Like think, as you mentioned, think Yemen, think Indonesia, different but vastly Muslim. Think North Korea, different again.
Wow.
But even thinking Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, China, you name it. I mean, we could go on.
Yeah.
Central Asia, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. Really, many of these places, to varying degrees, Christianity can be illegal, can be punishable, or it might just be unpopular and unwelcome. Indonesia is kind of, strangely open. And yet it's vastly Muslim country, dozens, hundreds of millions of people. But at Christmas time, even in these countries, I personally lived in the Middle East, as you know, for a number of years.
Yeah.
And even in that region, vastly Muslim, Christmas decorations, Christmas signs at Christmas time, even Santa appearing, and we're working around all these things. But there is a heightened possibility and a lighter freedom in many places to broadcast something a bit more about Christianity, about Christ, about the reason for the season. And what's more important is that people are thinking about it at this time.
This is amazing, really. I mean, not able to talk about Christianity, but able to talk about Christmas. I mean, it's got the same key word, right?
Absolutely.
And one thing leads to another. I remember a conversation I had a few years back. You mentioned Laos, of course, a very dangerous place to preach the gospel. There was a gentleman who lived in a community I was in. He was from Laos, and it was Christmas morning. And he just asked me outright, he says, what's Christmas about? What's that about? And
Exactly.
So I was able to tell him this opportunity, people are curious. It's a great conversation starter, right?
Absolutely, it is. And that's the thing. You can even start the conversation yourself in many ways. And guess what? When you think about hundreds of millions of people, think about how many millions are curious. And at Christmas time, that curiosity is piqued. And where are they going to go? Where are they going to search? They're going to search online. And if they've heard that there's a radio station that is present or beams in, they're tuning into us. They're looking for us. They're finding us. And so this is a prime season. And it's like Easter. It's just like Easter. And the nice thing is, of course, it's about Christ. So you can speak about, an interesting message for the suffering and for the challenging. So, of course, our stations ramp up, of course, the Christian message, Advent, God becoming man, redemption, suffering on our behalf, all these beautiful, incredible promises, resurrection. I was thinking and talking, I was just on the phone before this to our Eurasian director who looks after Russia, Ukraine, and the Stans and so on.
Yep.
And we were talking about some of the different messaging you do at Christmas. And of course, every year, something a little bit new, a fresh angle. And, there's a great opportunity to talk about 2 Corinthians 4, where Paul isn't talking about Christmas, but he's talking to people who know suffering. And he's saying, don't lose heart, hang in there. These light and momentary troubles worth a glorious weight for all eternity. Fix your eyes on what is unseen. And that's the message. So it's not Christmassy, but it's Christ.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fantastic. And of course, FEBC broadcasting in all these different countries and different languages. And look, you've been doing Christmas for quite a few number of years, but a wonderful opportunity to refresh the Christmas decorations, as it were, to find new ways of communicating Christ to these communities. What a fantastic opportunity. Do the responses, do they also peak at Christmas time? What's that looking like?
Yes. Well, they peak at our religious festival times, if I can put it like that, and
Yep.
they peak at other people's religious festival times. So Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim festivals, they also peak. There's a noticeable rise and
Wow.
so on during these seasons when people are thinking about spiritual promises and eternity and these kinds of things. So yes.
That is, I suppose, a wonderful thing to be doing. And as you know, I mean, we're just about to enter the Advent season, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. It can be really easy to be focused on, hey, all of the things on our to-do list or our shopping list as we head towards Christmas. But of a wonderful way of saying, you know what, let's send a Christmas card to the world. Let's
Yes,
get the
absolutely.
message of the incarnation, born that
Yes.
man no more shall die, that wonderful life-changing moment. Let's get that translated into hundreds of different languages and broadcast around the world. I mean, essentially, that's what you guys are doing, right?
100%. I mean, at the moment, 155 languages and counting, and that's exactly it. Our special focus this year for our FEBC is on southern Thailand, and it's kind of an interesting unknown thing. And speaking of languages, great in there, Andrew, because people think, Thailand, vastly Muslim, 60 something million people.
Yep.
Sorry, vastly Buddhist, I
Buddhist, yeah.
should say.
Yeah.
65 or so million people, but at least 6 million Muslims.
Wow.
So more than the population of New Zealand in Thailand is Muslim, and they are vastly concentrated in the south.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's our focus, but that's a distinct dialect. It's different. It's different from Thai or ordinary Thai, mainstream Thai. So we're in that language, and that's what we're doing. And the great principle of church planting, evangelism, and outreach of sowing widely. And so this is the beauty of broadcasting. You don't know how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people are listening. And you're sowing that seed. And as Jesus said in the parable of the sower in Luke 8 and so on, you're praying that it lands on the good soil of
Exactly.
hungry hearts.
And hey, some falls on stony ground, so throw more seed. I think that's the lesson we can take from that parable as well. And the thing I also love about you guys is working with local people, working within the cultures, working within specific dialects, finding ways of enculturating or incarnating the gospel into those different languages and reincarnating Christmas, as it were.
Perfectly. And when we have another opportunity, Andrew, let me tell you about that Thai program, because it is exactly that. It's got a strange name, and I asked about it, and it was all about the local thinking about the possibilities and the options in life. And
Wow.
so we can't do that. We don't do that. We don't translate English programs and pump them in. Our local people, knowing the worldview, knowing the culture, knowing the mindset, speaking to those hearts. And that amazing, that's a short and a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. And I just want to sort of put a pin in that idea of sending a Christmas card to the world, because a wonderful thing to be able to support. If people wanted to find out more about the programs that you're involved with, especially as we head into this Christmas season, it would be a wonderful way of supporting that. I think Coca-Cola had this idea a few decades back. I want to buy the world a Coke. The world doesn't need Coke. The world needs Jesus, right?
The world needs Jesus.
If people wanted to find out more about how they can do that, be part of buying a Christmas card for the world, how can they find out more about FEBC and be a part of it, Matt?
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, indeed. Come and see us online at febc.nz. You'll see a beautiful picture of wildflowers, which is all about sowing widely everywhere, but especially in southern Thailand. febc.nz, or give us a call on 0800 4 FEBC NZ.
Matt, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Bless you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.